Jill DeLong, I move to approve the meeting minutes.
Motion by Jill. Is there a second?
I will second. Mike Kane.
Jill and Mike. We'll do a roll call vote. So Jill and Mike are yes. Dennis is a yes. Dave?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
All right, minutes are approved. I would also look for a motion for the April 23rd minutes.
I so
Jill DeLong, I move to approve those minutes.
Okay, motion by Jill. Is there a second?
I will second that motion.
I think that was Dave seconding. So Jill and Dave are yeses. Dennis is a yes. Mike? Mike is a yes. Sean?
Yes.
All right, minutes are approved. Our first regular agenda item this evening is a request by John and Christy Schiffler from Albany, Minnesota, from section 6.7.5D of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439, to leave as constructed a feedlot structure that is less than 50 feet from the property line and less than 700 feet from a registered animal feedlot. Said ordinance requires a 50-foot property line setback and a 700-foot setback to a residence for an animal feedlot that is registered for 10 animal units or more. The affected property is 110 acres. It's the south 5/16 of the southwest quarter and the south 3/8 of the southeast quarter, section 34, township 126 north, range 31 west, Crane Township. The property address is 38088 225th Avenue, Albany, Minnesota. And I believe I heard that John and Christy are joining us by phone.
Yes.
Okay. And could you just state your names for the record and your address, please?
John Schiffler,
Christy Schiffler.
38088 225th Avenue, Albany, Minnesota, 56307.
Okay, thank you. And staff, if you could give us your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The 110-acre property in Crane Township is zoned A40. There is a feedlot on this property which has been registered with Stearns County since January 24th, 2000. The feedlot's currently registered for 687 animal units, which consists of mature dairy cows over 1,000 pounds, mature dairy cows under 1,000 pounds, dairy heifers, and calves. The applicant's permitted structures and the neighbor's home were constructed prior to Stearns County land use controls, so both are considered legal nonconformities. And the distance between the nearest structure and the neighbor's home is 548.4 feet. Between 2006 and 2008, the previous property owner constructed a barn without a feedlot permit, and the applicants are proposing to permit this structure as feedlot. On March 20, 2020, an application was submitted for the construction of a permanent manure stockpile pad, a new barn, and 2 liquid manure storage areas. On April 20th, 2020, in order to meet ordinance number 439, section 2.4, the owner submitted a signed compliance agreement agreeing that if the variance is not granted, the property owners will remove livestock from the barn within 30 days of the denial and obtain a land use permit for the shed for non-livestock use. A feedlot was then issued on April 23rd, 2020 for the proposed barn, stockpile pad, and liquid manure storage areas. The proposed residential setback of 445.3 feet is a 36% deviation from the required 700-foot setback, and the property line setback of 5.5 feet is an 89% deviation from the required 50-foot property line setback. There are 6 existing registered feedlots within 1 mile of the constructed building, and all surrounding parcels are zoned A40. The alternative would be to abandon the structure as feedlot, as stated in the compliance agreement. And the Crane Township, City of St. Anthony, the Star Post, Cold Spring Record, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified. We did not receive any correspondence for this request.
Okay, Shelby, thank you. John and Christy, any comments or input you would like to make at this time?
I guess we would just like to use it to house.
Our heifers. We're pretty limited on already on agricultural land, so we'd really like to keep it.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any questions for either the applicants or staff?
All right. Vice Chair Dennis, this is Jill DeLong. The question that I have for staff is, what impacts does this have on the neighboring property? If we have a variance, how does that impact the neighboring property and how they would be able to run their current, it looks like a agricultural, possibly a farm business?
It would not impact their feedlot business. And it also should not impact if they were to move their residence, because they would also have to apply for a variance since they're both legal nonconformities.
Are there other questions for either the applicant or for Shelby?
Mike Kane, when was that structure built?
It was somewhere between, oh Lord. 2008. We're not entirely sure. That's based off of aerial imagery from those years.
Okay. All right.
I had a question for the applicants, John and Christy. When did you buy the property and who did you buy it from?
When did we buy it?
Last year.
We bought the farm last year, and we bought it from my dad.
We didn't realize he had not permitted that building.
You anticipated my second question. Thank you.
This is Jill DeLong. Question for staff. So we've got a 50-foot property line setback. I understand the 700-foot setback reason, but what is the reason for a 50-foot property line setback, or what's the desired reason to hold that line?
Becky, would you be able to answer this?
Yeah, this is Becky Schlorf. The setback used to be 100 feet for existing feedlots. It was reduced down to 50. I think the intent was to try to reduce those land use conflicts, which may mean odor or other issues across agriculturally zoned property lines.
Another question for the applicants, just to get some context here. What is the size of that building? I couldn't really tell on it, and I don't know if it was in the information.
I don't know exact, but I think it's 80 by 120.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any other questions for either Shelby or John and Christy?
Dave Cameron. I have a question. What type of manure storage is underneath that building?
It's bedding pack.
Bedding pack, okay.
Board members, any further questions for either the applicants or staff? All right. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mike Kane, I move to close.
Okay, motion by,
Jill DeLong, I was just wondering, did we open it out to the public to speak?
I thought that all the public comments needed to come in written, but I will, Shelley, could you confirm or deny that?
I will confirm.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Okay,
so
thank you.
yep, the comments were supposed to come in by 3 p.m. today in written form to be registered. So good question, Jill. Thank you. I have a motion by Mike, and I'm looking for a second to close the public hearing.
Dick Gamrad, I'll second.
All right, seconded by Dave. And I'm trying to think, I have to take a roll call, I guess. And so I am a yes. Jill
Yes.
and Sean.
Yes.
All right, motion to close public hearing is approved. Is there any further discussion by the board? Any further questions before we go into the findings of fact?
This is Jill DeLong. My question is, are we going over the after the fact findings or the findings of fact?
We are going over the after the fact findings.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other discussion or questions by the board? All right. So just as a reminder on the after the fact findings for this request by John and Christy Schiffler, there are 5 considerations as we go through the questions. They are, did the applicant act in good faith and attempt to comply with the ordinance? Did the applicant make a substantial investment? Is the construction completed? Are there similar structures in the area? And are the county's benefits outweighed by the applicant's burden if the applicant were required to comply with the ordinance? So those are just considerations for us to think about. So the first question, is the proposed use allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located? Yes or no?
Yes, Dave Gamrad. Yes, it is. Mid-40s.
Okay. Does anyone disagree with Dave's yes on that item? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous yes. Is the variance in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the official control? Yes or no?
Mike Kane, under section 9.3.1, A40 does allow accessory structures in an A40 zoned agricultural area.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Does anyone disagree with Mike's statement for this item? Okay, that'll be unanimous consent. Is the variance request consistent with the comprehensive plan? Yes or no?
Mike Kane, under agricultural goal number 1, objective number 1, nurture and preserve the sound agricultural economy, and also objective number 2, to preserve the highly valued farmland for agricultural pursuits. The current location, there's not really anything they could really be planting or using right there because there's so many buildings around it. And if they moved it off the site, it would interfere with the crops or other things that they would have on the property.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Does anyone disagree with Mike's statements on this item? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous yes. Is the property owner proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner, not permitted by an official control? Yes or no?
This is Jill DeLong. Yes, using a feedlot on their agricultural land is a reasonable manner.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Does anyone disagree with Jill's statement on this item? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous yes. Is the plight of the landowner due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner? Yes or no?
Jill DeLong, like they said, the applicant stated they were not the ones who built the feedlot. It was the previous owners, and so they did not create this plight.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Does anyone disagree with Jill's statement on this item? We'll take that as a unanimous yes. Will the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Yes or no?
Yeah, the character of agricultural, and it'll stay that way.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Does anyone disagree with Dave's statement on this item? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous yes. The final question is, does the need for the variance involve more than economic considerations, yes or no?
Jill DeLong, economic considerations were not discussed.
Okay. Does anyone disagree with Jill's statement on this item? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous yes. Before we take a motion to approve or deny this variance, one step that we didn't ask is who all did not make it out to the site. So if you did not make it, please indicate. Okay, we'll assume that all of you visited then. I would then entertain a motion on this variance.
Dave Gamera, I'd make a motion to approve the variance.
Okay, a motion by Dave. I'll look for a second.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I'll second that motion.
Okay, a motion by Dave, seconded by Sean. We'll do a roll call vote. Jill?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Dave and Sean made the motion, so those are assumed yeses, and then I'll also vote yes. So it's a unanimous yes. The variance is granted, and you should, John and Chrissy, you should work with staff, Shelby and others to complete your variance. Thank you very much for joining us on the call.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our second item, which is a request from Jesse Thielen. And I believe Jesse was going to join us live. And Jesse is from Albany, Minnesota, and the request relates to section 6.7.5 A and D of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance, number 439, to construct a new residential dwelling less than 700 feet from a registered animal feedlot. Said ordinance requires a 700-foot setback to an animal feedlot that is registered for 10 animal units or more. The affected property is 18.07 acres, which is part of northwest quarter of the southwest quarter, section 23, township 124 north, range 32 west, St. Martin Township. The property address is 28322 273rd Avenue, Albany, Minnesota. And Jesse, if you've joined us, if you could state your name and address for the record, we would appreciate it.
Jesse Thielen, 28322 273rd Avenue, Albany, Minnesota.
Great, thank you, Jesse. Shelby, if you could give us the staff report, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Before I get started, I'll ask who has not made it out to this property. I believe then everybody moved out there. Did anybody have contact with the property owner while they were out there? I will understand that as a no. Okay, so this property is 18.07 acres in St. Martin Township and is zoned A40. The applicant's existing dwelling and the neighbor's feedlot were both constructed prior to Stearns County land use controls, so both are considered legal nonconformities. The current dwelling unit is located at 575 feet from the neighbor's feedlot. And the applicant has stated in their application that they'd like to replace the dwelling unit on the property. Their proposal exceeds the one-time 24-foot encroachment option allowed in section 5.1.4F subsection 1 of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439. The proposed setback of 538 feet is a 23% deviation from the required 700-foot residential dwelling setback and is 13 feet beyond the one-time 24-foot encroachment. In 2016, the feedlot located on the west adjoining parcel was registered for 225 animal units, consisting of mature dairy cattle over 1,000 pounds, dairy heifers, dairy calves, beef steers, beef feeder cattle, beef cow and calf pairs, and beef calves. The feedlot was originally registered on June 23, 2000 for 213.8 animal units. There is a feedlot on the applicant's parcel, which was last registered April 22nd, 2020 for 11.2 animal units consisting of slaughter cattle, cow-calf pairs, and horse. The feedlot is considered a legal nonconformity as it was in existence prior to the feedlot ordinance and has maintained greater than 10 animal units on site. The surrounding parcels are zoned A40 except for those on the west side of 273rd Avenue, which are zoned A80. The alternatives would be to replace the residential dwelling unit, meeting either the current no further encroachment point of the existing dwelling or the one-time 24-foot encroachment. St. Martin Township, City of St. Martin, Sauk River Watershed District, the Star Post, Cold Spring Record, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request.
Was there any correspondence, Shelby, on this request?
There was not.
Okay, thank you, Shelby. Jesse, any comments you would like to make regarding your request?
Well, just that I understand the 700-foot setback coming from a family farm less than a mile from the area here where I live there. And I understand it is a protection for the feedlot towards a residential housing house being built within that distance, pertaining to no other buildings being there, but being an existing farmstead across from the feedlot that both were existing at pretty much the same time. It's just a little bit of a different originality with existing buildings already on that farm site of mine.
Okay, thank you, Jesse. Board members, any questions for either Shelby or Jesse?
Vice Chair, this is Jill DeLong. Question for the applicant. I didn't see any attached drawings of which direction is the garage coming in. I can just see kind of the outline, but where's the driveway going to come into that building?
The garage is what is encroaching that a variance allowed 24-foot line. It'll be the car shed, my garage, that's going to be attached to the new proposed house. If the existing house, being I'm putting the new house on the same footprint as the old house, I don't know, back in the day, the German heritage, they never attached garages, but needing to put a garage, of course, onto my house is what's causing it to cross that threshold.
Right. So thinking about how the current driveway is the garage, are you moving the driveway so that it comes into the garage directly, or is it going to be an L from the current driveway and then 90-degree turn into your garage or proposed garage.
Correct. It would be a 90-degree or somewhat in that area of that type of an angle to get off of that main driveway to go into the garage. Correct.
Are there other board members who have questions for either Shelby or Jesse? Jesse, I have one question for you. There is 13 feet difference between meeting the 24-foot allowed encroachment and the 37 feet that you want to move the house. And it seems like it could go 13 feet. I'm trying to figure out, I think that's east. And not encroach or not disturb the current driveway that's in there, and still work. Is there a reason that you didn't just move it 13 feet east?
My contractor figures if I move it to try to alleviate away from that or stay within that 24-foot allowance, that I'll have to take out my top driveway, the portion of the turnaround, to get the landscaping. Because of the house moving further east, I'll need more fill. So there'll need to be more backfill used around, which will actually overwhelm the driveway. So the driveway would have to be either removed completely or totally redo the yard for a different main driveway coming in to that area.
Okay, good. Thank you. Other board members that have questions for either, again, Shelby or Jesse? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Dave Gamrod, I so move.
Okay, motion by Dave. Is there a second?
Second, Mike Hain.
And so we'll do a roll call vote. Jill,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
and I am a yes. So motion carries to close the public hearing. Any further discussion by the board before we move to the findings of fact?
Mr. Chair, this is Bonnie Mossman. I wanted to let you know that I've arrived and have logged in and was listening to all of the discussion for this item. So I will go ahead and vote on this item.
Very good. Bonnie, do you vote yes to close the public hearing as well?
Yes.
All right, thank you and welcome. All right, if no further discussion, we'll move to the findings of fact. And this is a variance request to construct a new residential dwelling less than 700 feet from a registered animal feedlot. The first question is, does the proposed use, is it allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located? Yes or no?
Mike Hain. The A40 does allow new construction.
Okay. Does anyone disagree with Mike's statement on this item? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous yes. Second question, the variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Jill DeLong, yes, it will be in harmony. Like the applicant stated, the only part that's really encroaching further is the attached garage. And, 100 years ago when this building was originally built, attached garages weren't a thing, and they definitely are now in the year 2020. I don't think that it's unreasonable to have an attached garage. So I do believe it is in harmony.
Thank you, Jill. Does anyone disagree with Jill's statement on this item? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous yes. Will the variance be consistent with the comprehensive plan? Yes or no?
Jill DeLong from Growth and Development. Goal 6, provide a variety of residential opportunities. Objective 1, provide a diversity of housing prices and styles meeting the needs of residents of different ages, incomes, and lifestyles. Yes, it is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
All right, thank you, Jill. Does anyone disagree with Jill's statement on this item? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous yes. The property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner. Yes or no?
Mike Kane, I believe it is reasonable to reconstruct an old house and make it more energy efficient and more conducive to the lifestyle of today.
All right, thank you, Mike. Does anyone disagree with Mike's statement on this item? We'll take that as a unanimous yes. The plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner. Yes or no?
Sean Blackburn here. It certainly is unique, especially since it's been that way since long before this owner.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Is there any one that disagrees with Sean's statement on this item? We'll take that as a unanimous yes. The variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality. Yes or no?
Dave Camrod, the essential character of the locality won't change with this variance.
All right, thank you, Dave. Does anyone disagree with Dave's statement on this item? We'll take that as a unanimous yes. The need for the variance involves more than economic considerations. Yes or no?
Jill DeLong, the considerations are mostly on the land, the drainage, and just changing the land itself. We did not discuss the economics otherwise.
All right, thank you, Jill. Does anyone disagree with Jill's statement on this item? All right, we'll take that as a unanimous yes. I would now entertain a motion on this variance.
Jill DeLong, I move to approve the variance requesting to construct a new residential dwelling 538 feet from a feedlot.
All right, I have a motion by Jill. Is there a second?
Sean Blackburn here. I'll second that motion.
All right, thank you, Sean. We'll do a roll call vote. And so Jill made the motion. Mike?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Thank you. Dave?
Yes.
Sean seconded the motion, and I'm also a yes. So the motion passes unanimously. Jesse, your variance is approved, and you can work with Shelby to complete that variance on very normal business hours. Thank you very much for attending our meeting.
Okay, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Our next item is from Jacob and Larissa Pettit. So we're going to consider a request from section 6.2.1P, table M of the Stearns County Subsurface Sewage Treatment System Ordinance, number 422, to construct a new deck that will be located less than 10 feet from the septic tank of the subsurface sewage treatment system. Said ordinance requires a 10-foot setback to the septic tank of a subsurface sewage treatment system. The affected property is Lot 4, Block 1 of Monarch Meadows, Plat 2, Section 9, Township 125 North, Range 28 West, LaSac Township. The address is 450 Coneflower Court, Sartell, Minnesota. And Jake and Larissa are joining us via video, I believe. And if you're on, if you could give us your name and your address for the record, please.
This is Jake Pettit, 450 Coneflower Court, Sartell, Minnesota.
All right. Welcome, Jake. And it looks like, Jamie, you're going to give us a report.
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Did you guys have a chance to visit the site? I'll assume you have unless I hear no.
Jamie, this is Mike Hain. I also spoke with Jake just regarding the location of the current deck.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Jamie, this is Jill DeLong. Go ahead, Bonnie.
This is Bonnie, and I also spoke with the applicant.
This is Jill DeLong. I did speak with the applicant. I asked him about going wide versus long, and he indicated vents on the side of his house that would need to be moved if they did that construction work.
Thanks, Jill, for offering that information. Anybody else? Okay, seeing as none, I will move forward with the staff report. The applicants currently own Lot 4, Block 1 of Monarch Meadows Plat 2. Monarch Meadows Plat 2 was platted in 2015. The property is in the R1 zoning district. There is an existing 3,138 square foot single-family residential dwelling with an attached garage. The dwelling was constructed in 2015. The subsurface sewage treatment system was installed in 2015 as well. And it is within the 5-year time period, so no septic certification is required. The applicants are proposing to construct a 14-foot by 18-foot, 252 square foot deck that will be located 4 feet from the existing septic tank. The property is not in the Shoreland Overlay District. The existing subsurface sewage treatment system was installed in 2015. The project is as proposed is a 60% deviation from the requirements of the ordinance. Impervious lot coverage for the property is approximately 7.5%. With the added deck, it would be approximately 7.7%. An alternative to the request is to construct a deck that meets the required setbacks. Lee Sauk Township, property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request, and we don't have any other correspondence with regards to this request.
All right, Jamie, thank you very much. Jake, any further comments or input you would like to have regarding your request?
We originally had planned to put in a 16 by 15 deck, but then when we realized that there was the 10-foot setback, we went back with our designer and we did shrink it to a 14-foot deck, and we moved the posts for the deck back so they're only 10 feet out from the house. So the actual posts going in the ground would be 8 feet away from the tank. And then the deck would overhang. So the edge of the deck would be within 4 feet, but it would be 5 feet above the ground level as well. And so we just did what we could to try to do that. And we did not build the house. We bought the house last August.
Okay, Jake, thank you very much. Board members, any questions for either Jamie or Jake?
Jill DeLong, question for staff and the applicant. What impact will this deck have if it encroaches on it for maintenance? You know, it's a septic tank, it will need maintenance. It might need to be dug up one day for some reason. If the deck is overhanging it and is only 4 feet away, how will that impact equipment being able to access it?
This is Jamie. There shouldn't be any issues with maintenance on that. They'll still be able to pump the tank without any problems. If they do have to dig it up, I believe the property owner stated that the portion that's going to be 4 feet is an overhang, so it's not the actual footings for the deck that are going to be 4 feet. So there shouldn't be any issues that I can see.
And I guess I've stated before, if I do need to replace the tank and I need to shore the deck up, for the excavation of the tank, that obviously I'd be willing to do that while the tank was being replaced.
And to maybe add a little bit more information, Jill, if there would be some sort of issue with that tank where it would need to be replaced, they would then at that point, make sure that the new tank that they would be installing would be meeting the setback to the deck at that point.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions for either the applicant or staff? I just had one question, Jake. Are you adding a roof over this deck as well from the plans?
There will be a partial roof. There's a gable end to the house there already, and so that will come out 8 feet, which the roof portion would still be 10 feet back from the septic.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any further questions? Otherwise, I would look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Mike Haynes, so move.
Jake Hawk, I made it on and I'll second.
Okay, Jake, welcome. And we'll take a roll call vote. Jill, for closing the public hearing.
Yes.
Bonnie,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
and Sean.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. The public hearing is closed. Board, any further discussion you would like to have before we move to the findings of fact? Okay, hearing none. This variance is to construct a new deck that will be located less than 10 feet from the septic tank of the subsurface sewage treatment system. First question, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Mike Haynes. The property is on R1 and decks are allowed use in R1 zoning district.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Anyone disagree with Mike's statement on this item? We'll take that as a unanimous yes. The variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Jill DeLong, yes, it is in harmony. As discussed with staff and the applicant, they are accommodating extra room. It's just an overhang over the actual tank, so the tank has less of an encroachment on it, and it would be still accessible for any kind of maintenance, which I believe are the general purposes and intent of having this 10-foot area around the tank.
All right, thank you, Jill. Does anyone disagree with Jill's statement on this item? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous yes. And the variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Mike Haynes. Under goal number 6 of growth and development, objective 1, provide diversity of housing prices and styles meeting the needs of residents of different ages, incomes, and lifestyles.
All right, thank you, Mike. Does anyone disagree with Mike's statement on this item? We'll take that as a unanimous yes. Next question is the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Jill DeLong, I believe adding a deck to a resident's home is entirely a reasonable manner.
All right, thank you, Jill. Is there anyone who disagrees with Jill's statement on this item? We'll take that as a unanimous yes. The plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner. Yes or no?
Mike Kane. The applicants purchased the property with the septic already in place. They had no control over how close it was to the house. Whoever installed it didn't properly calculate, apparently, the distance between the house and the tank.
Thank you, Mike. I would wholeheartedly agree with that statement. Does anyone disagree with Mike's statement on this item? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous yes. The variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality. Yes or no?
Jill DeLong, adding a deck to a house will not change the character of the locality at all.
All right, thank you, Jill. Does anyone disagree with Jill's statement on this item? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous yes. The need for the variance involves more than economic considerations. Yes or no?
Dave, economics weren't part of this discussion.
All right, thank you, Dave. Does anyone disagree with Dave's statement on this item? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous yes. I would entertain a motion on this variance.
Mike Kane, I move that we approve the construction of a new deck that will be located less than 10 feet from the septic tank of the subsewage treatment system.
All right, thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
Well, Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Sean. I will take a roll call vote. Jill?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes, so the variance is approved unanimously. Jake, you can work with Jamie on finalizing the variance details. Thank you very much for attending our meeting tonight.
Thank you, everyone.
Our last item this evening is to consider a request from Jessica and Timothy Osman from Rice, Minnesota, from section 6.2.1A of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439 to construct a residential accessory structure with a larger maximum accessory building area, sidewall height, and building height than allowed for a property with a lot area of 1.2 acres. That ordinance allows for a maximum accessory building area of 1,500 square feet with a 12-foot side wall height and a 20-foot building height for a property with a lot area of between 1 and 1.99 acres. The affected property is Lot 2, Block 1 of Riverview Park, Plat 3, Section 28, Township 126 North, Range 28 West, Rockaway Township. The property address is 51 Ulster Road, Rice, Minnesota. And I believe Jessica and Tim were going to call in, and potentially Kevin Molesca, their builder, was going to join as well. Whoever is calling in, if you could state your name and the address for the record, please.
Sure. Hi, Jessica Ostman, and the address is 5138 Ulster Road, and that's the address of our home, and we believe also of what's across the street, the lot across the street. And
I'm
we weren't sure if Kevin was going to be able to make it, but he must not be on from what I can tell.
Okay. Well, Tim and Jessica, welcome. Jamie, if you could give us the staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Members of the board, did you guys have a chance to visit the site? And if so, was there anything that was shared between you and the property owners that should be brought to this board tonight? Hearing nothing, I will assume that everybody has visited. The applicants currently own Lot 2, Block 1 of Riverview Park Plat 3. Riverview Park Plat 3 was platted in 2016. The applicants purchased the property in 2019. The property is in an R1 zoning district. The total lot area for the property is 1.23 acres, 53,578 square feet, according to the plat. The residential accessory structure standards in the Shoreland Overlay District for lots between 1 and 1.99 acres allows for a total of 2 buildings with a maximum sidewall height of 12 feet and a maximum building height of 20 feet. And the total cumulative area they can occupy cannot exceed 1,500 square feet. The applicants are proposing to construct a 3,323 square foot residential accessory structure with a 19-foot 9-inch sidewall height and a 29-foot 5-inch overall building height. The property is in the Shoreland Overlay District of the Mississippi River, which is classified as agricultural along this area. The Mississippi River in this area is on the list of impaired waters for mercury and fish. There is currently no subsurface sewage treatment system. The proposed structure will have bathroom facilities and will require a septic design to be completed by a licensed septic designer. The current impervious lot coverage for the property is approximately 6%. The proposed impervious lot coverage when the project is complete will be approximately 17%. An alternative to the request is to construct a residential accessory structure that will not exceed the maximum accessory building area of 1,500 square feet with a maximum sidewall height of 12 feet and a maximum building height of 20 feet. Brockway Township, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and property owners within 500 feet have been notified of this request, and we have not received any correspondence with regards to this request. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. Either Jessica or Tim, do you have any comments or input you'd like to provide to the board?
I guess we could just say, since the letters were sent to neighbors, we had a number of neighbors stop by with positive feedback for us on, we kind of showed them everything and they received the letter and they were very supportive. I just wanted to put that out there, but, and pardon?
Yeah, make it more look more like.
Yeah, and I think we wrote in the request that we would make it not look like a big pole barn, but it would look more, help with the aesthetics. And they were really happy about that too. So I think that's it. Otherwise, we're happy to answer questions and appreciate you taking the time to go through the variance process with us.
All right. Thank you, Jessica and Tim. Board members, any questions for either Jamie or Tim and Jessica?
Mike Kane.
Bonnie Mossman, I have a question for the applicant. When looking at your floor plans, I see 2 bathrooms, both with bathing facilities for a tub and showers. Are you planning on having people camp out in this space, or typically bathrooms that have shower facilities would be more for residences?
Actually, when we were going to have one just on the main floor, we were only going to have 1 floor. And when we worked with our builder, Kevin said to put a subfloor in to have more storage space and to be able to have your maintenance room upstairs instead of in the garage part of it. He suggested that if you wanted that, it wouldn't add a lot of additional cost. But we would expect that people working or hanging out there, they would shower there and then come to our house versus carrying anything they were doing there into the house. So we just thought, since we're putting a big shed over there, we would like to be able to actually clean up over there versus come to the house. So no, nobody would be living in or residing in the space, no.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Mike, you had a question?
Yes, I did. Very similar to Bonnie's. Is there at any point do you perceive this being a residential house or any type of living facility where permanent residents would live?
No, absolutely. That's not our, because we have 4 bedrooms. We're covered with bedroom. Yeah, no.
Right, and I guess a follow-up to staff, Jamie, would this be at some point able to be broken off and sold as a house like this if it was fixed up? Because they own the adjoining parcel across the street, correct?
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, there is a building entitlement available on this piece of property. It is an residential 1 zoning district, and so there are criteria that would not be met by the structure that's that's proposed to be constructed to meet the requirements of a residential dwelling. That doesn't mean that they may not have the ability to, construct a dwelling at some other time if they wanted to sell this property or something like that.
Okay, one more follow-up question with the applicants. How much total land do you own both on this parcel and the one that has your residence on?
You're talking about the lot size?
The lot size of where your house is and the lot and this lot, because this is just over 1 acre, 1.25 acres.
Yes. That's a really, the one we are on right now, I'd have to look that up to tell you the truth, because it's very narrow. The lot is very narrow and long, and I think it's 2 put together. And we just bought it last July, but maybe, I don't know if Jamie has that information or if I can go pull up our paperwork quick.
Mike, if you want to give me a minute here, I can probably get you that information. I just have to pull it up on my mapping system here, and I can kind of measure that for you. So just give me 1 minute here.
Thank you very much for doing that, Jamie.
Yep. Okay, there it is.
Oh.
Mike, it looks like the house is about 0.3 acres. That property, and then they have the 1.23 for the property across the road.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. Board members, any other questions for either the applicant or staff?
Jill DeLong, question for staff. So if someone were to build a home of this same size and dimensions in this property in the same placement, if this were a home instead of a residential accessory structure, and meets all of the requirements of whatever a home needs, would this need a variance?
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, as long as the required setbacks were met, they certainly could construct this size structure for a residential dwelling. I don't believe they're meeting the 30-foot setback, and they actually might be meeting the 30-foot setback from that rear property line. I don't recall if that was it, but assuming all the setbacks were met from property lines and the road like they are, yes, they certainly could construct a residential dwelling this size because they would still be under their impervious lot coverage. But as long as all those setbacks and impervious lot coverage are met, I would say yes.
So Jamie, a follow-up to that question by Jill is, if they were to sell this property, someone else could build a residence and leave this accessory building as they propose if we approve this variance. Is that correct?
Yes, Vice Chair Gregory, they certainly could leave this and build a home on there, assuming that they would stay below their 25% impervious lot coverage.
If this wasn't in the Shoreland Overlay District, Jamie, if you could remind us how large of an accessory building could they build outside of the Shoreland Overlay District?
If they were outside of the Shoreland Overlay District, they would be allowed to build 5% of that total lot area. And so, let me grab a calculator here, and I can tell you.
2,700 feet, maybe?
Roughly 2,700 square feet is what they would be allowed outside of Shoreland.
And they were proposing it's 3,323, okay?
That is correct.
Okay. Board members, anyone else have questions for either Jamie or Tim and Jessica?
Jill DeLong, question for staff. So looking at the picture that's on the screen, is the red area the Shoreland Overlay District, or is it the blue area, or the, I didn't understand which map showed that area.
Okay, so do you see the diagonal blue line that's running kind of along this area? I don't know if you can see my cursor here moving. This is the 300-foot boundary from the river. However, the ordinance says that the shoreland should be defined as the 300-foot boundary, or that area that is within the 100-foot or the 100-year floodplain, which happens to be this line running right here. So the 300-foot boundary happens to be less than the 100-year floodplain. So this would actually be the shoreland boundary going right here.
Okay, so the majority of the structure would be within the Shoreland Overlay District. I thought it was just the red area, but it's the majority of it.
Yes, the majority of the structure, with the exception of that western, third or fourth, whatever that would be, percentage.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there additional questions from the board for either staff or the applicants?
Mike Kane. I have a question just for the applicant. Are they willing to build a smaller size? I mean, what led to the calculation of this particular size?
So I explained it a little bit in the variance, but I can explain it further. When we first started the process, the builder and us, we went and met, and we knew we had to be past that 300-foot shoreland, but we weren't quite clear. The part that wasn't clear was that the floodplain also was shoreland. So we started the design process without any barrier to size. So we went through the whole design process, and by the end we had figured out through a lot of different meetings with folks, and Jamie was really good and helped us clarify, nope, it actually is considered shoreland because it's in that part of it was in the 100-year floodplain. So at that point we did shrink because we had wanted the one part to be much more flexible for recreation and or storage of larger things, and we shrunk down those pieces. But so we kind of were at the end of the process by the time we realized there was a limitation, if that makes any sense to you. So we did shrink it once we found out that limitation, but we're like, we already have the design, this is what ideal. And so we decided to go through with the variance process based on all of that information, that we were already at the end of the road basically of design. And like I said, we shrunk it as easy as we could without spending a lot of money on additional design. is kind of where we were at. So yes, if we started over and knew this, it would, again, take that whole redesign process to try to figure out how we would fit all of the needs into a space that was shaped differently, or I guess we'd have to start, totally over. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any additional questions from the board for either staff or the applicants?
Jill DeLong, question for staff. If, so there's a limit of the accessory structure size. If they were, say they broke this one up into smaller chunks that all fit the 12 feet by 20 feet height, would those separate structures, would they still need a variance, or would having separate structures fit or be allowed? I don't know if that made sense.
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, I guess my understanding of your question is that if they had two separate buildings this same size, is that kind of what your question was?
Well, so instead of this one giant building, if they broke it into smaller buildings, like is this 1,500 square feet limit, is that for all accessory structures or for individual accessory structures?
That is their total for all accessory structures. So if they had two of them, and they could have one that would be 750 and the other would be 750, and that would be your 1,500. So there really is no way for them to meet the ordinance with the accessory building area that this structure is proposing.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions by the board for either staff or the applicants? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Bonnie Mossman, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I think there was two of them, but I'll take Sean as the second. We'll do a roll call vote. Jill?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so unanimously approve closing the public hearing. Board, is there any further discussion you would like to have prior to us working through the findings of fact? Okay, hearing none. This variance that is being requested is to construct a residential accessory structure with a larger maximum accessory building area, side wall height, and building height, and allowed for a property with a lot area of 1.23 acres. The first question is, the proposed use is allowed in the zoning district in which the subject property is located, yes or no?
Mike Hain, accessory structures are allowed in an R1 zoned area.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Does anyone disagree with Mike's statement? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous yes. The variance will be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the official controls and any related ordinances, yes or no?
Jill DeLong. So the ordinances regarding the Shoreland Overlay District and in the packet that I got when I became a board member, it says the Shoreland Overlay District, the goal is to reestablish to the extent practicable the water protection functions of the shore buffer area. For this one, if I think about it that way, if I think about the size of this building, that could be a reasonable size for a large house, which would fit there. It's across the road from the river. There's a lot of foliage in between where this building is planned and where the road is. I believe that by having this taller and larger building, that it would still be in harmony with the general purposes and intent of that part of the Shoreland Overlay District. Thank you.
Okay, Jill votes
Mr.
yes.
Chair, Sean Blackburn here. I have to say I somewhat agree, but I certainly have reservations because we are just blowing the numbers out of the water on this thing. It goes so far beyond what is acceptable or allowable. It's quite a variance. I realize that as Jill said, that there are different factors, and if it was a house, they could build it that way. So I'm reluctantly agreeing, but I want it to be known that I'm a little upset about the size of this building.
So Sean, you are voting yes?
I am.
Okay.
And Bonnie Mossman, I would like to say I'm going to vote no, because when I look at this, the square footage is over double. The building height is 50% over. The sidewall height is 40% over. The majority of times when we're looking at giving a variance, it's usually not for that much of a deviation. And so therefore I am going to vote no.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie. We'll take a roll call vote. We have Jill and Sean at yes at this point, Bonnie at no. Mike, your vote, please.
No.
Okay, Dave?
No.
Jake?
Yes.
Okay, and I vote no as well. So my count is we have 4 no's and 3 yeses. The variance will be consistent with the comprehensive plan, yes or no?
Because nobody wants to tackle this one.
Jill DeLong, I'm going to say under Natural Resources Plan Goals and Objectives, Goal 5, support the goals of the County Water Plan. Objective 2, minimize impacts to water quality from development through use of low-impact development techniques, improved management of buffers and natural resources in shoreland areas, and improve stormwater management in existing developed areas. I would say that no, it is not consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Does anyone disagree with Jill's statement on this item? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous no. The property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, yes or no?
Mike Kane, I believe wanting to have an accessory structure on a piece of land that you own is a reasonable manner.
Okay, Mike is voting yes. Does anyone disagree with Mike's statement on this item? Okay, we'll assume that's a unanimous yes. The plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner, yes or no?
Jill DeLong, I'm going to say no, because even if we weren't in the Shoreland Overlay District, which would be, I think Jamie said 2,700 square feet, the 3,300 is still greater than that. So the landowner, it is due to the landowner and how large they want to build this building. It's not unique to the property.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Does anyone disagree with Jill's statement on this item? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous no. The variance, if granted, maintains the essential character of the locality, yes or no?
Mike Kane, I believe the design of the building is compatible with other buildings and structures in the area, so I don't think it's going to hamper the look of the area.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Mike is voting yes. Does anyone disagree with Mike's statement on this item? Okay, we'll take that as a unanimous yes. The need for the variance involves more than economic considerations, yes or no?
Mike Kane again. I don't believe economics were discussed as a part of this application.
Okay. Mike is saying yes. Okay, Jill.
I disagree. From the applicant's application, they were stating that they would need to, rent out other buildings in order to store their property. So that would be economic in my mind. So I think that it was economic considerations for this one.
Okay, thank you, Jill. We'll take a roll call vote. Bonnie, yes or no?
Yes.
Dave?
No.
Jake?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes. All right.
Thank you, Sean. And I vote yes as well. And so 5 yeses and 2 noes on that particular item. With that, we've gone through the findings of fact. I would entertain a motion on this variance request.
Mr. Vice Chair, I move to deny a variance request to construct a residential accessory structure with a larger maximum accessory building area, sidewall height, and building height than allowed for a property with a lot area of 1.2 acres.
Great. We have a motion by Jill. Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackman, I will second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Sean. We'll do a roll call vote. Mike?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jake?
No.
And I vote yes. And so by my count, the motion passes on a 6-to-1 vote. So the variance is denied. Tim and Jessica, you can work with Jamie to look at your options. And we thank you very much for taking the time this evening to join us.
We appreciate your time as well.
All right, thank you. That was our agenda for this evening. Are there any other announcements, Shelley, that you have for us for our next meeting or in general?
No announcements at this time.
Oh, wait.
All right.
What do you guys have
Thank
next?
you.
I move we adjourn.
Jamie. Okay, thank you, Jake. Is there a second?
I'll second. Dave Cameron.
All right. Unless there's anyone opposed, we are officially adjourned. Thank you all very much
Sean?
for your.
Sean, say hi to Ann.
Can you hear me, Ann? Kelly says hello.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Thank
I
you.
think the meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you all very much for your participation and great discussion. Have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Good job, Dennis.
Thank you.